Welcome to Brian's Vinyl Records, and today we present Tracks, a track-by-track look at some of our favorite and maybe not so favorite albums in the history of rock and roll. I'm joined today by my good friend and pal, Jay, from Time Out Need More Popcorn. Jay, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good and glad to have Tracks as an audio format. The first time we did this, it was typing back and forth about Def Leppard's Hysteria for an hour and a half, which was cool, but it's much simpler to just talk through a good record. And I think we picked a good one for today.
I think so too, and just as a history, this is something that we've been talking about doing since 2011.
Yeah.
That's 8 years that we've been talking about doing this, and so it's finally cool to actually have it happen.
We don't have any.
We tried with the blog, but
we don't have any Buffy episodes to review anymore. We finally ran out of the movies we wanted to talk about on film strips, so seemed like a good
Or
time.
have we? No.
Well, talking about them in that format, yeah, we have. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was something we talked about over and over again that we really wanted to do something like this musically because you and I are both musicians, songwriters, and just lovers of all things music. And it's just really cool to finally be able to get this out. We did it with, like you said, the blog last time. And it worked out pretty good. It was one of my most read blogs, and still to this day is one of my most read blogs on the site. So people dug it, and I got all kinds of good feedback. I think using this medium, though, is going to really make it shine a little more.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm looking forward to just revisiting some albums that I haven't thought about in a long time. I mean, like my musical history is different than yours. Like you still listen to a lot of music and stuff. I will go back every now and then and listen to something that's in my iTunes library or whatever. I haven't cracked open a CD in years. They're just sitting in a box somewhere at this point. Every now and then I'll come across something I really just want to listen to. I'll pull it up on Spotify maybe or whatever. But for a chunk of my life, I did nothing but consume music. I feel like, and I don't know. I think probably around the time that I left my band in like 2004, early 2005, I just kind of walked away from music, and I haven't really had the same relationship with it since. And it's not that I hated it. I just think I just got to an end point with it. So it's fun for me to be able to go back and dive back into something that for 20 years of my life was like the primary creative thing I was interested in.
Yeah, I mean, when we started talking back in 2007, maybe 2008, whatever it was, it wasn't probably for another year or two before we both found out that we played guitar, both of us, and that we would like to write music. And so I think that, through that relationship, we've talked a ton about music. And with my vinyl collection thing going on now, I've gotten into listening to music always. Like if I'm working and I'm not in a meeting, I've got music on in the background to help me through the day. It's been cool for me to come back to that as well, because I didn't for a long time either. I've always listened to music in the car, and music has always been a big part of our life as a family here. But the way I'm doing it now, listening to so much music and really getting back into some of these things that I've not listened to in ages, it's been fun.
Well, for me, like the one entertainment medium that's remained for me is movies, and I think that's probably why I'm doing a movie-centric blog and podcast now with Time I Need More Popcorn, and I still watch football. There's kind of the two things that have sort of lasted my whole life, but music is one of those things that I had this long relationship with, and I kind of stopped. And oddly enough, not long thereafter is when I discovered podcasts and podcasting. So like while you're at work grinding away, and when you're not in meetings, you're listening to music. When I'm not in meetings and I'm just sitting at my desk doing stuff, I've got a podcast on. So I listen to, right now, if I open up my Overcast app, and they're not a sponsor here, but I'll just go ahead and plug them. I think I've got about 23 episodes right now from 21 different shows just in the queue, and that's not the other 20 that are, I've already played through in the last few days and stuff. So, I listen to a lot of podcasts now, but I don't listen to a lot of podcasts about music, oddly enough. So that's why I'm really excited to be on this show with you and talk about music and talk about an album that, man, was a big deal for me as a kid and throughout my teenage years. It was part of my rebellion against the grunge thing that happened when I was in high school. I was still listening to this album, and I didn't care what anybody thought about it. And I still have the tape somewhere.
No, that's awesome. I definitely don't have the tape anymore. I have the CD probably twice, and I've got the vinyl record. So we're talking about one of the ultimate heavy metal, hard rock, whatever you want to classify it as, albums of all time, and that's Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood. And I know that there's going to be a lot of Motley Crue fans who think, well, Dr. Feelgood's great, but it's not their best album. Whatever. This is by far their most commercially successful album, and probably the one that has lasted the longest of any. If you go to a casual fan, they know a song from this album more than likely.
Yeah, who are the people who says this is not Motley Crue's best album?
There's a lot.
There is no way on earth you can intellectually argue that the musicianship on anything else they've ever done, except maybe Saints of Los Angeles, is anything near what this record is. This was like the one time the four of them, they got completely together. And the funny story is Bob Rock got this album out of them by making them record their parts when the rest of them weren't around. So they recorded it kind of like the Pink Floyd album Wish You Were Here. Nobody else was around. But it got the best performances out of them. And it's actually the one time I would say Motley Crue had superb musicianship. Not a band really known for that up to this point in their career, and I don't think really known for it afterward either. They were a show, man. I mean, they were like the original glam rock meets faux Satan rock, hard rock punk band of the LA scene in the late 70s, early 80s. And that's what they had been throughout the 80s. And they weren't a party band like maybe like Poison or something like that, but they had, all that reputation. And to hear themselves describe it, they were a biker gang with guitars. I don't know that they were that badass, but I mean, these guys were rough living dudes. And by the time they got to 1989, the fact that all four of them were still alive was amazing, much less being able to actually talk to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that the musicianship thing might be a little overboard. I think that you got one of the best drummers ever in Tommy Lee, and Mick Mars is not a slouch on guitar. So I wouldn't put it that way. I know a lot of people would argue that Too Fast for Love is their best album, and after that they became too commercial. Great, if that's how you feel.
Yeah, everybody says that when bands sell anything. I mean,
yeah.
So.
My personal favorite album of theirs is obviously the Karabi album on 1994. But in the Vince Neil era, which is pretty much the whole era minus that one album, this is by far my favorite of the Motley Crue albums, easily. I don't think any of the other ones previous to it hold a candle to it as far as if you look at track for track on this album compared to the others. Sure, they've got great hits out there, but nothing compares to this one.
Can't be understated either how much of a role Bob Rock plays in this record and its success, because not only did he get the performances out of them by essentially separating the band so that they weren't there to nitpick each other to death, but he brought things out of them that they had not tapped out yet. I mean, yes, Tommy Lee is one of the all-time great rock drummers, and some of the stuff he does on this record it gets lost in the fact that you've got all this other stuff going on around it, but if you just listen to the drums, and there's a song in particular where he gets a breakdown, and I'll talk about it when we get to it, that you really can tell like what this guy's doing is not what a normal rock drummer would do. But the thing that Bob Rock figured out was that the best musician in this band outside of Tommy is Mick, and we need to turn Mick loose in a way that no one else ever had or did. And it changed the way, I mean, Mick never sounded the same after this record. He sounded like this record over and over going forward. And I'll say a note, one day maybe we'll do that Karabi record, because I have a lot of thoughts about that, because that's a very interesting record, and it was one that was a real departure for him. But this, as far as like the collection of these guys doing their best stuff together, I don't think you get a better version of Motley Crue than what you get here. And that's sort of my overall thought about the musicianship of the record.
And also, you got to remember too that this is the first time they've done a record with no drugs or alcohol.
Yeah, they were sober. Yeah.
They were sober for the first time, and I think that helps when you're trying to play your instrument to not be kind of screwed up.
Well, I mean, yeah, and that's one of the great stories about the Appetite for Destruction Guns N' Roses album is that Mike Klink actually got a record out of those guys because they were most assuredly not on the up and up in making that. Yeah. Maybe we'll talk about that one another day. But man, Feel Good for me, dude. 1989. I was 12, 13 years old. when this came out, and I was getting into music in a big way. I was learning how to play guitar. I had I think I've told the story about my youth ministers who were both heavy hard rock guys, so real fun guys to be around. But Aaron was a big Crue guy, and I was actually with him, I think, when I bought this album. But he had introduced me to like Theater of Pain, and I think I had gotten Too Fast for Love off of him too. Like he made me a copy of it, on a tape or something like that. And then I didn't buy Shout at the Devil until years later when I knew I could hide it.
I know that.
Yeah, but I had that one, and then I had Girls, and so I knew this one was coming out because I think I had seen the Dr. Feelgood video on MTV or on Night Flights or something like that, and but I just thought, man, this sounds really cool, and I'd heard the story like, oh, they're clean now. And I, of course, being, altruistic 12, 13-year-old me, I'm like, oh, great, and yippee. And I remember buying this, and I forget how many yards I cut to buy it. But anyway, I remember buying the thing and popping it in, and like, all I wanted to do was get out, because I was somewhere and I had like my cheap headphones with me, and all I wanted to do was get home because my brother had this nice set of Koss headphones. They were noise canceling headphones back when that was a big thing to have, and I wanted to listen to this on those because I knew it would sound awesome. They had a real bass boost in them, and I mean he had those things for like 10 years too. And I remember putting those on and just being blown away by what I have always described as this thunderclap of rock coming at me on the opening tracks of this record, man. And like I say, I spent years listening to this. I got into high school in 1992. I was still listening to Dr. Feelgood. My friends were all listening to Nirvana and Pearl Jam and whatever. A lot of bands I'd never heard of and don't want to hear of anymore. And I was the guy sitting over there with my long, faux mullet listening to Motley Crue still. And, but I loved it, man. I still listen to the Crue, and the Crue led me down to a lot of different roads, man. I got into, Guns N' Roses because of Motley Crue. I got into LA Guns because of Guns N' Roses via Motley Crue. And one of the first bands I was in college in the grunge 90s, we played an LA Guns tune called Some Life for Love. Which is a really cool tune, by the way. But I played the intro to Kickstart My Heart. It was the only thing I could do with a whammy bar. And I didn't even do it right, but I did enough of it that everybody knew what it was. Yeah, I've listened to Motley Crue for years, and we kicked off the idea of doing this like maybe a year or so ago, like doing tracks we've talked about forever. But Dr. Feelgood, we're like, we should start with something like that. And I downloaded it on iTunes, and listened to it, and what's fun is that the digital version, and I think even one of the remaster versions that's out now, has like demo tracks, and I want to talk about those as we get into the songs that made the record. But just overall, as this record, man, this one was big for me and still is, and it's my favorite Motley Crue record next to Saints of Los Angeles. And I think I even told you when Saints came out, I bought it. And I bought the CD, and I said, this is the best thing they've done since Feel Good. It sounds like they're trying to do that again, and they didn't quite get there, but it's almost there.
The funny thing with Saints of Los Angeles is that is originally the soundtrack to Dirt. That's what that was supposed to be. They wrote all the songs to be a chronicle of their life story for the movie Dirt before it was made.
Totally works.
Yeah, I mean, if you actually listen to it now and listen to the songs and they play in the order that they put them, you can see that progression through their story of how that came about. So it's kind of cool. It's a cool concept record. And then, of course, Dirt got shelved, so they released it as Saints of Los Angeles and whatnot.
And if you've read Dirt, you know why. And you also, if you listen to my show, you know why I'm curious as to how they actually made a movie out of that and what we're going to get to see.
I am totally fascinated, too, to see what that turns out to be. But anyway, let's introduce Dr. Feelgood the way we should here. Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood was released on September 1st, 1989, produced by, as you mentioned, Bob Rock. It reached number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart, but no single that they released did reach the number 1 spot, which I think is kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
Has sold over 6 million copies in the United States alone. And, of course, we mentioned this is the first album that they did after getting clean from drug and alcohol addiction. So that's kind of your intro to Dr. Feelgood and where we're at in 1989. Motley Crue's riding a wave of success, I would say, after the Girls, Girls, Girls album. I think that did very, very well for them. And now they're going to kind of be shot into superstardom.
Yeah, that album did well because they kind of stripped down their sound and they got a little more serious about what they were trying to do. They were also all completely loked out of their minds the whole time. So it was amazing that record got made as it was. But they had shown a little bit, they kind of dropped the makeup at that point, and all of that. And they were just dressing in black leather and, putting fire out on stage and just playing music as best as they could. But, in between that, Nikki Sixx has had its overdose and had been revived, and Vince had already done the car wreck that killed the Hanoi Rocks drummer and was coming off of all of that, and they had a lot of problems at that point. And then they got themselves clean because, and I think it's in the liner notes somewhere, but Steven Tyler sings on a couple of these songs, and they did this one in Vancouver rather than record in LA, and that became the thing for like 80s bands. Was once they got kind of cleaned up, they went to Canada or Washington to try to record again because they wanted to get away from LA for a little while. And Steven Tyler talks about he was friends with them, of course, from their drug and rock and party days, and Aerosmith at the time was recording Pump, which is a big comeback record for them, and I know it's a big one that you care a lot about. And you can hear a lot of similarities between that record and you listen to this Motley Crue record because they clearly went here with a mission. They wanted to get this right and to see if they could really do this without all the substance. Because that's the scary thing about artists a lot of times is the thing that drives them, the darkness and sometimes the substances and things like that make them really famous. When they realize I can't really do that anymore, it's a destructive way of living, they get out of it and then they're dry. They have nothing to draw upon. And what's interesting is that Nikki Sixx talks about getting sober was the thing that opened him up. And because, he wrote all the lyrics for it and has for the entire time in the Crue, but it really changed the way that he approached songwriting and all that stuff. And I think that's neat to hear because oftentimes you hear the opposite side of that. It's like we all got clean and then we had nothing left to say.
Yeah, and I think that he was able to, and he's always been, like you said, the writer of the lyrics other than the Karabi album. He wrote pretty much every song that Motley Crue's ever done, with a little help here and there from Vince Neil on like onesie twosies. But for the most part, he's the lyricist, and he's always had a creative mind. But now imagine that creative mind that he has being sober to reflect back on some of these things he's done. And if you know anything about Nikki Sixx, he kept a journal all the time. Even when he was screwed up so bad, he always kept a journal, which has turned into the Heroin Diaries and more of his releases out there. So that's kind of where that comes from. And to be able to sit there and read that and draw from that, I think helped him a ton as well. Songs like Kickstart My Heart, we'll get into that too. But, let's talk about this album now on a track-by-track basis, because we opened the album with this kind of like, they call it Terror in Tinseltown. It sounds like the car wrecks happened or something, and there's cop cars and all this stuff going around. It's kind of a weird ambiance thing to get you into the real first track, which is Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah, it's 911 calls and glass breaking and people screaming and this whole, it's almost like the beginning of a horror movie or something like that. But the best part of it is that this huge like crash happens and thumps right into the rhythm of the first song, which on the tape and on the CD are great. On friggin' iTunes, there's like a little skip. And it drives me nuts. I gotta figure out how to take that out because I think I did at one point when I was re-listening to it, because that is a seamless transition, and it's not the first thing. It's not the first time a band's done that, but I think it was a smart way to do it because it's almost like we were this entire disaster zone, and now we're coming out of it. And I know I'm reading a lot into it there, but I mean, from everything I've heard about it, that's sort of what they wanted to do with this little moment.
Yeah, well, and I mean, like you said, it perfectly leads right into Dr. Feelgood, the song. It is what it is, a nice intro piece. I think that you could use that as an intro to your act on the stage and everything else, and I'm sure they have. But Dr. Feelgood's really the song we're getting to, and that is also going to be the first single off of this album that they released out there. Like you said, you saw the video when it first came out. Before the album even came out, this video was released. This song was out there. A very interesting video of the LA drug scene, which is kind of fascinating given the history of the band and the fact that they're clean now.
I'll tell you what it is, Brian, for modern television and show watching audiences, it's like a preamble to Breaking Bad. You could think that the loco guy that they end up dealing with in the first and second season is Dr. Feelgood, is Jimmy. So, I mean, really, you could make that assumption, and it's not a hard stretch because it's shot the same way. It looks the same way. It's very cool. I only put that together in a recent rewatch of Breaking Bad, but I was like, man, it's like the guy from Dr. Feelgood grew up to be a meth dealer.
Yeah.
And then crossed paths with a science teacher who was making meth. I mean, really. But no, look, man, Dr. Feelgood is... It's just a badass song, man. That's all you can say. Just this crunch, thick guitar. And I mean, I think Motley Crue had done this for a while, but they tuned everything a whole step down. And if you're a guitar player, you know what I'm talking about. So it gives everything this real rumble. But the way Bob Rock liked to record guitars and layer them together, it's something you can recreate on a stage with an effect. But in the studio, you're just recording the same guitar part, and then you just smash them on top of each other with just like it's sound waves of delay between them. So they're instead of playing octaves different, they're just on different wavelengths. But it makes this huge just dun 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 dun. It's like a thunder coming at you, and that's what I just associate this record with, that sound. And then in the middle of all that thump, you've got this razor-splitting guitar line that Mick's playing, along with Vince's just screaming his head off vocals. Just an unreal tunesmith. And the song structure is cool too, man. You get verses, you get choruses, you get breaks, you get other verses. I mean, it's not your standard verse, chorus, solo, chorus out. And I like the fact that they have a different structure to this song.
Yeah, and my favorite part of the song that you mentioned, the guitar is just, the riff is killer and all that. But at the beginning of the song, during the first verse, when Vince is singing, Rat Tail Jimmy, secondhand hood, deals down Hollywood, blah blah blah, right? The part where it got it made in the shade, and then you hear the drum, doo doo, like that is just a cool effect. Like, who puts a drum right there? They go doo doo, just two tom hits, right?
Yeah.
But it's so impactful to go right into the next line that it just that always stands out to me when I'm listening to this song, is that one fill. And he's got a ton of really good fills in this song, but that one fill, that effect of those two toms being hit between the two lines, and the other instruments kind of stop for it. It's just really cool. Awesome effect that they did there.
I mean, this is another thing you can do as a producer, is when you don't have everybody else around, you can have a guy just play everything he wants to, and you get to assemble this. And this is before like Pro Tools and GarageBand, where this is not easy, but it's a little simpler to move stuff around. This is tracks on tapes.
Yeah, when you have to splice
so,
it. Yeah.
So I think I heard somewhere Tommy Lee said that's like 8 drum takes put together.
I'm sure.
And he said it took him a month to learn the album of what he played, because what he would play, he'd play stuff, and then Bob would take this from this and this from this, and just kind of stick them all together. And Mutt Lange did this for Def Leppard too. We wrote about that on the Def Leppard Hysteria blog. It's just like a piece here and a piece there and a piece here and a piece there. What it makes the band do is, it makes you really conscious of what you're playing, because you're gonna have to do it again, but you have to relearn all your own songs, which is, I mean, it's a great exercise if you want to try to fill the time like of being an addict. You have to fill it with something productive. How about you go relearn your entire album?
You need to cover yourself.
Exactly, right? And that's what's funny about this, man, because this song is told from the third person point of view. So it's a story about a drug dealer, that could have been any drug dealer that these guys knew, or that, it's just out there, right? And it's all about, he's going down, the DA's going to get him this time, all this kind of stuff. And it's this. But if you listen to the demo, which I did on the digital that I've got now, the original version of the song is, I'm Dr. Feelgood, and Nicky's writing about being the guy. And you listen to it and you're kind of like, it's all right. But listening to the way the song is, the song that we know now, so much better. It's such a better as a story song than a first person song.
Yeah, I think that changes the whole dynamic of the song if you're talking about yourself. So I agree with you. I don't think that that would work as well. I'm interested now in hearing those demos because I have not. I think that's fascinating. I think that probably Bob Rock put that in their ear, like you should probably change the word I to we or he. I think that would sound better. I don't know.
The story is, listening back through it and working on it, Nicky said, you know what? Hold on a minute. And he went and he had, Nicky's right. Like you mentioned, he's a big writer. So he's always writing. He's always writing stuff. And he just rewrote the whole thing and he stuck it, gave it to Vince. And Vince, and this is when they were together. And Vince started feeling it. And then he left and Vince just nailed it. And he said it just came to him that, like, no, this should be about somebody that we know versus us being the Dr. Feelgood, And, man, the cool thing is, like, the call and answer chorus, they've got all these different voices going on in there. I mean, you've got Nicky and Mick and Tommy singing and Bob singing. But Vince is, like, saying a line, and there's this whole wave of people coming behind him. And the thing that really sells for me, man, is Mick's guitar stuff goes from, again, that real thumpy, crunchy stuff to this. Again, the best way I know to describe it is just this razor rip solos that just come out of everywhere. I mean, this guy plays so friggin' fast. And I don't think at that point we'd ever really heard how fast he could play. And by all accounts, Bob Rock brought that out of him. He stripped all of his sound down, just cranked the amps up and just let Mick tear it up. And the solos on this are fabulous. The outro solo, I love the way that it almost calls back and forth like the chorus line does. It's a great song, and it's a killer song. And the funny thing is, the European LP release of this originally didn't have Terrell and Tinseltown and Dr. Feelgood on it.
Oh, how sad for them.
Which,
right?
I mean, like, wow, right? If this album opened up with what's going to be track 3 that we talk about next, I would have, like, turned it off. Even at 12, but we'll get there. But no, Dr. Feelgood as a song, man, may not ever get any better. And to prove its worth, I mean, that whole Dirt trailer is pretty much nothing but Dr. Feelgood songs, and most of it's Feel Good and Kickstart. Because this song, people know this song by the opening notes.
Oh, absolutely. You can't mistake it. This is the highest charting song they had from the album. It reached number 6 on the top 100. But just by far probably the most recognizable song on this album. You might say that about Kickstart My Heart, but I think this is the one.
Yeah, I mean, it's the title track. It's a great introduction to this band that is trying to reinvent themselves at this point in their career. At this point, they've been around 10 years. Recording records, touring, everything you can just about go through except actually being dead. And Nicky was sort of dead for a little bit.
He did die, yeah.
Yeah, and so to come out on the other side and come out with this song, it's fantastic.
Absolutely. That brings us to the next track, which is Slice of Your Pie, written by Six and Mars. This one is You Don't Like, I Take It.
It's not that I don't like it. It's okay, let me say this. Six and Mars wrote the music to this. Nicky writes the words. We've established
right. Mm-hmm.
I like that the slide intro to this is a real change from that first song. Because it's still all tuned down, so it's got that little rumble to it. But it's this mellow kind of, I don't know, Zydeco vibe almost, that then works into what I can only describe, Brian, as like a strip club anthem. Because if there's one thing that's been consistent about Motley Crue's entire career, is they like to hang out in strip clubs. and they're friends with people from strip, and that whatever, if that's your world, whatever. But Slice of Your Pie is definitely, I mean, the metaphor is pretty thin. We know what he's talking about here, right? And I kind of banged on Def Leppard for this on the Hysteria blog for they either write songs about how awesome they rock or how much they want to rock you, and this is certainly one of those want to rock you songs. And the thing is this music is really cool. It's kind of wasted on some lame lyrics, but it's not bad. It's a come down from Dr. Feelgood for me.
Okay. I mean, I've always liked this song. I think the lyrics are funny and good, but not like they're not classic lyrics. But they fit what they're trying to do here, and the vibe of the song, it fits really well. But my favorite part is the end of this song. It's an homage to the Beatles' She's So Heavy from the Abbey Road album. And it's almost a note-for-note homage with...
So what you're saying, it's a ripoff, or it's a cover.
Well, yeah, and it's meant to be. It's meant to be a kind of a tribute to the end of She's So Heavy. And I never really noticed that until today.
I see. I had never heard that until you told me that, and now I'm going like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I think the 1980s bands, all these guys grew up when the Beatles hit. It's what made them want to do what they did. And they covered
Helter Skelter too, right?
And,
so
and
they're Beatles fans,
right? And should be noted, first Motley Crue record that didn't have a cover on it. So at least in 2 records, so they did one on Theater Pain, they did one on Girls, 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 and neither of which are very good covers. Even though "Smoking in the Boys' Room" was a hit for them, not a great tune. The fact that this opens up into this again, this sort of acoustic kind of backwoods vibe. I said Zydeco earlier; it's a little bit of that, but it's almost bluegrassy, but real bluesy, Allman Brothers kind of thing. Because Mick's a huge slide guy, and you're going to hear the slide all over this record, and so this is just sort of introducing the idea. It's almost like Chekhov's slide. We're going to put it out here and we'll blow it up on track 5 for sure. But you got that, and then it becomes this strip club anthem, then devolves into this like ritualistic moaning, wailing, ethereal Beatles cover thing. It's a weird, very weird way of ending a song about sex. I'll just put it out there.
Well, I don't know, man. Is it that weird? I mean, you have the sex, and then afterwards you kind of have to come down. You're saying
this is Afterglow? So
absolutely.
Maybe so. Maybe that part of the song definitely is. I could see that. Now that you said that, I will allow that to stand.
Thank you, Judge.
Well, I'll say this though, it's not the worst song on the record by far.
All right, we'll get there. Up next, probably that song. No, Rattlesnake Shake is up next. This one is a full band collaboration here. Mars, Six, Neil, and Lee are all credited with writing this song. Killer riff, awesome drums, and then what happened with the lyrics?
Well, we brought the horns in. And I have a joke about this. You and I talked about albums with like soundtracks we like before, and I mentioned the Pure Country soundtrack. The Kyle Chandler character in that movie has a point where he looks at George Strait and says, "Man, need to bring in the strings and the horns." And George Strait looks at him and says, "We're going to bring in the horns." And every time I hear him say that, I think about, this is a cool riff. It's kind of a stripper jam song, so we've got 2 of those in a row now, but it's a cool riff. And then we get these horns that don't really match everything else going on in the song. I have a complicated relationship with Rattlesnake Shake because I love the music to this. I have, even as a kid, have thought the lyrics to this are stupid. And they mostly are. But it's not a song that's supposed to be about anything. Obviously, it's about a girl dancing. So, or shaking it for you, which there's like 1,000 songs about. So sure, whatever. But it's such a cool riff that's wasted on some really kind of B-roll words, and I feel bad for it in that way because it's a cool riff that gets wasted on bad words and then has stupid horns in it.
All right, well, I can go with that, but I don't mind the horns. I think the horns are kind of cool, and like I said, I really like the music on this one, but yeah.
Okay, I do have one beef with the music, and I think I told you this offline. Why do we have to have a bass solo? Sit down, Nikki. So nobody wants to hear that. So I was like, Mick is tearing it up for 2 songs now, and he's tearing it up for a third one, and then you make him drop out so you can go, ooh, technical, ooh. I'm sorry.
I guess he just wanted his moment to shine.
Look, he writes all this stuff. All right, he's the one that talks the most. But
not your average fan doesn't know this. Like they're not looking at who's writing the songs, right?
I knew that then because Nikki always talked about it. He wouldn't shut up about it. No, look, as someone who plays bass and has played bass in a lot of bands and stuff like that, you have a role. Play it. Don't. The guitar player is supposed to be over there.
Yeah,
exactly.
I get it.
It again. Cool riff, and Mick gets to really blow out there at the end. That's accented by the horns, which does work in that one instance. But it's another thing. I'm like, and why did we strip out the cool part of this song so that the bass could thump for a minute? Really, like this is it underwhelms, and it's 2 songs in a row now where I feel like there's something here, but I'm not really loving it. I don't hate them, but I don't love them. But now I won't lie to you and tell you that I didn't. You can't. This song is impossible not to tap your feet to if you're into it. I mean, it's got a heck of a beat.
Well, yeah, and then like I said, the music is great. You kind of have to just deal with the lyrics as they are. But I always enjoy listening to this song. I don't turn it off when it comes on. In fact, I sing along with it a lot of times too, just because that's what you do. But the lyrics could have used a little more rewriting.
Well, it wasn't about anything. I mean, it was about shake it. And okay, we'll write the shake it. Look, whole lot of shaking going on ain't about nothing but, humping in a car. But it works, right? Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Again, this is a great riff and a pretty cool performance, kind of blown on some lackluster words, but the chorus is very sing-along too. And it's definitely one I don't skip this song because it's a kicking song. It's another kicking song.
Well, that leads us to another kicking song. Track 5 on side 1 is Kickstart My Heart, which is probably the second most well-known track on this album.
Yeah.
Kickstart My Heart. Great song. This is an interesting story. I don't know if you know the story behind this one too, but Nicky was writing the lyrics to this and didn't want to give them to the band. He didn't want to show them to the band. And it was Bob Rock who said, you should really show these guys these lyrics. And he finally did, and they all sat around and finished up the song. Or he finished up the song after that because they did it. But it's about when he got the injection into the heart to bring him back to life.
Yeah, the adrenaline shot, right? Yeah. Well, these guys are motorcycle guys. They've always, they've done, I think the whole girls video is half of them riding on a motorcycle and half of them in a strip club. And so they love this. So that metaphor kind of works. And that's what a shot of adrenaline to the heart is, kids.
And also at this time, you got to remember that Vince Neil is getting big time into high-speed car races.
Yes, he is into funny cars and rocket fuel and all that stuff. And the cool thing about this, man, is it's a punk song. I don't know if you're big into punk music or not. I think we've never really talked about it much, but I like some punk music. I really do. I'm not like Black Flag and that kind of stuff. I mean, that's cool. It's just not what I listen to. But I like punk music and I can appreciate it for what it is. And this is a punk song played through the vessel of a hard rock metal band in the 80s. And for everything I'm going to tell you about how great Mick Mars plays, the way Bob got all of his stuff in here, it's you and I are wrestling fans, so we talk about, man, you got to get all your stuff in. Mick gets everything in this one, man, and he's the one that came up with this whole, hey, you know what, this sounds kind of like an engine rev, and y'all, and he just that huge dive, with the tremolo bar. Every guitar player kid that I knew growing up in North Alabama was trying to do that, including me, as I've already copped to. And because why not? It sounds like you're revving up the car or revving up the motorcycle, and then it just comes into that staccato rhythm, and Tommy's just drumming his head off back there. And Vince, for all of his shortcomings live and even all of his shortcomings sometimes on record, really sings this song. Like he pulls it out in this one, and the demo of this one is horrible, by the way. Like you can kind of hear the skeleton of what it could be, but not until they lay over all of the guitar stuff. And one thing here though, like I as a guitar player hate H-A-T-E hate the talk box. All right, with everything I've got, hate Peter Frampton can flip off. I'm sorry, I just hate that crap. But what Mick does with it at the end of this song, yes, sir. Yes, that is fantastic. Love the way that sounds. But mostly that's an effect that I'm like, that is one of those we wish we could disinvent. But here it totally fits. Because again, this song sounds like a train about to go off the rails. Or again, if you've ever been to like a drag race, like a drag car about to explode. And I love that they captured that in a song. That's so hard to do. Like, you want to write a song that's about something, and then to actually get it on tape, that's sort of amazing. This is second only to Dr. Feelgood on the record for me. It's absolutely superb.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. Now, talk boxes are something I've always wanted to have. I like them, and you wouldn't have the Sweet Emotion song if you didn't have a good talk box. It just wouldn't be the same.
I would be okay if that didn't happen, by the way.
Oh, I love that tune. Anyway, I like the talk box. I love this song. I think it's a fantastic song. And seeing Mick Mars play this song live, now that's another dimension of this band. That band is phenomenal live. They somehow find a way to make it sound full with the three guys playing these songs.
I'm telling you, man, it's all about how you attenuate amplifiers and you make them sound like there's more than one of them in a row, and it works. It's a great trick of live soundry. But yeah, it is just them. Yeah,
they are fantastic, and then Vince ruins everything. But
hey, look, man, you can't hit those notes forever, man. Like even John Bon Jovi
I don't mind if you can't hit the notes, but at least sing all the lyrics. Anyway,
he's running around too much. At least his breath.
We're getting off track. Great song.
One more thing on Kickstart though, for you talk about he's skipping lyrics. Listen to the demo of this. He does the same thing on.
Of course he does.
Because even then he couldn't spit them all out. But anyway, yeah. Mm-hmm.
One thing, my pet peeve about Vince Neil is that he just does not want to sing lyrics. And that's his job. Anyway, after Kickstart My Heart, we finished side 1 with another song. This is the second highest rated song for this album. It reached number 8 on the Billboard Top 100 chart. This is Without You, the love ballad of this album, written by Six and Mars, of course, obviously musically, and then Six lyrically. Your favorite thing about this is the amazing slide work that Mick Mars does in this song. And without that, this song would not even be anywhere close to as good.
Oh, no, this song would be completely lame without that. It would be a 4-minute droll without the slide work that Mick puts on this. It carries the song. I mean, the Crue, they've done ballads, on records, right? They'd done Home Sweet Home, which was a massive hit for them. And it was, again, it's one of those things when they play it live, it's huge, right? I don't remember what the ballad was on Girls, Girls, Girls.
You're All I Need.
There we go. Thank you. You're All I Need. See how memorable it is?
I love that song.
I mean, it's not a bad song, but it's not in the same category as Home Sweet Home. But Without You, for me, sits right up there with Home Sweet Home. I know Home Sweet Home's kind of everybody's personal favorite, and honestly, I would tell you I'd like it better. But Without You is amazing. The thing is, man, I remember the video to this song, and it's like they're in some sort of Egyptian temple or something, and it's lots of close-ups of Mick's face, which I love you, Mick, but that is not the look we want. But
right.
But the slide work on this is unbelievable. Well, it's not unbelievable. It's fantastic, and it's really good. It's again, you're showing the best musician in the band is him next to Tommy. Right, and you're really letting him show off, and Bob Rock pulled that out of him because, again, he screwed around with some slide here and there on records, but it wasn't something that Crue did. And Bob said, "No, you need to play slide on this," and so he just started diddling around with it and came up with just incredible licks. I mean, nowadays, man, like some bro country artists should cover this. I'm surprised they haven't, honestly, because it fits totally in that vein. But the slide work on this is fantastic. And growing up in a place in North Alabama near Muscle Shoals, where like if you learned how to play guitar, you had to at least try to pick up a slide every now and then. It was part of what you did. I remember sitting around trying to figure out what was going on here, and I was like, man, I can't even touch this. Like it was so good. This is really good work.
This is one of my favorite songs on the album itself too. It's just lyrically, it's sound. It's a good love song or good ballad, whatever you want to call it.
It's good sad. Like Nicky is good at tapping into the sadness every now and then, and I think he really hit it here. Like, I've kicked on him for 2 songs early on about I know what you're writing about, and it's not very interesting. This is you got something bigger than you that you miss, that makes you get through it, and for all we know, he wrote this about something a lot darker, but it's yeah, I mean, but really, I mean, because I've heard people ask him, like, is this about heroin? And he's like, I'm not gonna say it's not, and if you listen to the song like that, like an ex-addict writing about that, well, that's kind of, man, that's even sadder, right? But
for sure, yeah.
You feel the pain of what that is for him. And I like the fact that, again, it's not complicated, but the whole mood is hit immediately with that first lick, and then Vince follows it right through. I mean, he does a good job singing this song, and it's well done. And I'll give credit for Nikki and Tommy for kind of laying out of this one, because they don't really do anything spectacular as a rhythm section in this one. So it's actually one of the songs I'd say, Tommy, you really have to learn hard. On this one, you just kind of laid out of it. This is the only reason I put this one third, because I like the up-tempo songs from this band better, but it's a strong entry. And this video was on every 24 minutes, I think, man. It was constant.
Well, now we flipped the record over and we're on side 2, and we started off with a staple of the live set for years to come here. This is the only song where Vince Neil actually plays an instrument, folks. Same old situation. He's got an alligator bag top hat to match, dressed in black on black.
I remember seeing the video going, I didn't know Vince could play too.
Well, that E and that A chord are real tough.
I mean, you knew like Bret Michaels could play for Poison because you'd seen him play in a dozen songs, but you hadn't seen Vince play anything. And to see him out there with that, I mean, I can only describe, I think it's a Fender. It's like a Strat, but with a hole cut out of it, so it's sort of acoustic, but it's not really. Him playing that and doing the whole bit, and the lyrics of this, though. You just ripped off a line of that, and I'm going, is that what that really says? Because I don't know that I've ever paid much attention to what's said in this song. I think, I've always taken this song as like, yeah, he said, she said, that's sort of the song.
No. This is all about that, hooker girl dressed in the hooker clothes, and how you're pretending to be interested in her, but she knows it's all about sex.
So this is Pretty Woman before that movie was ever made, is what you're saying.
It's this is as easy as it gets to decipher, my friend.
As I said, I never paid much attention to it, and I'll tell you why. Because, again, it's got some ripping guitars, I think I wrote a note, I guess this is about falling in love with a stripper or something. I don't know. I said, maybe it's about Poison's guitar. Maybe it's about Poison's guitar player stooping the drummer's girlfriend. I don't know. Was that happening about the same time?
I honestly think, no, actually, it was a few years later. But I honestly think this is about a guy falling in love with a lesbian.
Really?
Yeah, because he talks about how she's got a girlfriend, introduced her to her lover in a cellophane dress, blah blah blah. They were kissing softly.
Why do they have to be lesbians? Couldn't it just be somebody who is multisexual or whatever?
Well, I think he's going after something he can't have. But anyway.
Oh, well then why isn't that the same old situation?
Because all the hot ones are always the ones he can't have. I don't know.
These guys bedded half of California at one time. They're talking about ones you can't have. Sex. Oh, see, that's where, okay, you know what the simple situation is? The rock star going, man, I just got all these hoes up in here. No, that is not believable. Like I said, is this song about a stripper falling in love? I don't know, whatever. It's a cool song built for people in an arena to sing along to. That's what the video is. You've seen them live. That's it is. It is for everybody to get up, and it's a party song. It's Unskinny Bop from Poison. It doesn't mean anything. It's just fun, and everybody sings, and we have a big time, right? It's a party.
It is definitely a party song, and this is as simple as it gets, right? You got the A chord, the E chord, and then once in a while you get a G in there, and that's it. It's just so straightforward and all that. But this one, I think, is more of a lyrical song than any of the other songs on this album. This is the lyrics driving the song more so than the music. The music just complements them. That's my take, anyway.
What I love is that 2/3 of the audience has no idea what you just said. Yeah, hey, what? People have and I love that. I think that's funny. We're talking about chords. I love that because as a guitar player, again, that's just funny to hear. But no, you're right. It's simple. And that's the one thing I'll say, all these other songs are kind of intricate. There's a lot of, we've talked about Tommy's drumming and stuff on some of these songs, a lot of intricate stuff going on. This is the song, though, I wanted to point out. They lay out coming out of the guitar solo, and it's just him drumming and everybody singing, which is a common thing to do in rock music. I used to love to do it in bands I was in, drove my bandmates crazy because I thought this was a cool thing to do. If you listen to what's going on behind Vince when he's singing that chorus out of that solo, Tommy's drumming is not the dum pa dum pa dum pa. It's all this intricate beats, and it's like, what song is this guy playing? and you go like, that's weird. But if you like, will tune your ears and just listen to the drums through the whole song, that's what he's playing the whole song. That's the genius of Tommy Lee, is he could work in beats that weren't the standard rock beat, but sounded cool. And it wasn't just extra fills. It was like a song of nothing but extra fills. He was playing in between all the notes, and it's really cool, man. I mean, this is an intricate drum song. For the rest of the music is pretty simple, and the lyrics are pretty simple. Again, it's the same old thing, right? It's just a sing-along party song, but it's a really cool drum beat going on with it. And I that to me, like, has always made this really memorable as a tune.
Yeah, and I just love, I think that's really cool. Tommy Lee, the drum thing, he's writing a drum track. He's not playing a drum track, right?
Right,
he's actually
exactly.
writing a drum track, which is awesome. Like, not many bands will do that. Your prog rock people probably do that, but otherwise you're laying the beat down. He's writing a drum track for the song.
You just hit it for me. He's playing what Neil Peart would play in Rush. Instead of a da 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 da, he's playing ba 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 ba. Like it's just all this complicated beats in what is just a straight 4/4 song. But he's just adding extra pieces to it, and it gives the song something else that, again, your brain, you don't know what's going on necessarily, but your brain does, because it hears something different, and that's why this song worked. It's why it was a single. It's why it was a hit, and the video was awesome. But people liked this because it was a fun party song, but it had a little something extra to it, and that's what made it cool.
I can't disagree with that at all. And like you said, it's almost like they said, Tommy, write a drum track, and then we'll just play something to it.
And can I say,
works.
man, like, for me, this is where the album takes a steep drop.
Oh, no, you can't be serious. Because
Yes,
we've got
I
up
am.
next, track 2 on side 2 is Sticky Sweet, written by Mars and Six, of course. Background vocals from Steven Tyler, Jack Blades of Night Ranger, and Brian freaking Adams, all the way from Canada.
Well, that's because he was hanging out in Vancouver, man. Yeah, and you know what's funny? If you listen to it, you can hear, like, it's hard to hear Blades and Tyler. Like, you can kind of hear Tyler in there, but you can friggin' hear Brian Adams singing this. Like, you can hear him in there. His voice is just recognizable. It's hard to hide it. And even that chorus of people. I love the story on this is that the first time they met with Bob Rock as a producer, and he told him what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it and stuff, Mick Mars was so inspired by that he said, I wrote the riff to Sticky Sweet in my head on the limo ride back, got back, picked up my guitar, laid it down, and had it done. And so I gave it to Nicky, and then the rest of it, kind of went from there. But this was the thing that Mick Mars wrote.
That was bizarre.
I don't think he wanted to call it that. I think that's what Nicky called it, and he just played along, which is sort of the Mick Mars story. I just did stuff, and then they'll play along.
Well, we're right. That's what you do.
But the fact that the one compliment I'll pay this song is that the guitar stuff in it is really cool. And coming off of a song that was as basic as you can get for a Motley Crue tune, I'll give credit for the fact that he's got some pretty neat stuff going on in this song guitar-wise.
Well, the riff, the opening riff and the main riff in this song is amazing. I mean, it's do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. I mean, how cool is that? Mm-hmm. It's just badass. Now, I am opposite of you. I really like these lyrics. They're so just wrong.
They are wrong on every. I knew they were wrong before, like, today's sensibilities that tell me this is wrong, though. That's what's funny. I was woke before it was cool.
This is Steel Panther before Steel Panther even knew what they were.
This is the reason Steel Panther exists.
Exactly.
This song.
Oh, good
and
God!
The next
There's a
one.
fire in my pants when lightning strikes, and she laughs that evil laugh. I love it. That's just classic smut lyrics. And I dig a good smut lyric song.
Okay, I don't. If that's your thing, I ain't judging you. Whatever. Not my thing. I think when I was listening to this song, I'll be honest, most of the time I skipped this one. Yeah, except for the opening riff, which I really thought was cool. And when I found out Brian Adams, who is someone I really, really like as a musician, was singing on it, I would listen to it and try to glean something from it. But it just makes me feel icky. And I don't know why. I just don't.
Well, I mean, who cannot feel icky when you hear a line like, "Now when I've done good, she slaps me on my ass. It takes more than 10 seconds to satisfy this lass." I mean, hell yeah. That's like self-deprecating and like, it's just too good.
That's every bad Fairley Brothers movie that ever was made. That's all I know. And I just can't touch it. So no, I am a hard pass on
and I am a hard crank it up. That's a great song. And speaking of great songs, Jay,
oh no.
Up next we have another classic smut song. She Goes Down. This one was written by Mars and Six as well. The background vocals on this song was provided by Cheap Trick guitarists Robin Zander and Rick Nielsen.
Yeah, not surprised by that. Actually, I think I did know that. Cheap Trick songs are pretty dirty if you listen to them. By the way, I'll say this: there's something to be said for subtlety. And these guys don't have it. And, Brian, I'm not going to lie to you. I've hated this song since 1989. I didn't even know what it was about in 1989. But when I found out, I was like, no, this just seems so nasty. And it seemed nasty then, and it is. It is supposed to be nasty. And it's one thing to sing about strippers, but this just seems abusively awful, and I don't know. I just have always hated it. And here's the thing, though: this can't even be rescued with good music. At least Sticky Sweet had a cool riff. This riff is boring. It feels like a song that should have been on. This was like a song that should have been on Girls, 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 buried on side B, and it is buried on side B here. Or I'm going to say this: should have held on to it and dropped it on that Generation Swine garbage.
Oh, well, we can talk about Generation Swine someday because that would be one of the other side of the albums we talk about. However, to me, I always like this song. Now, this is your typical groupie type song. It's all about the groupies and what they do for the boys backstage and everyone else who needs it, because before you get to the boys, you have to do everything to the other people first, right? And that's how it works. And this is all about that. And it's no bones about it.
That's what this is about.
Well, have you ever seen a backstage area and know what goes on there?
My band was a bunch of nerdy guys.
Okay, but your band didn't have a big backstage area like Motley Crue does.
No, this is true.
You're not playing big stadiums.
This is true on every level. You're exactly right. I agree. I get it. Again, I just don't like it. I didn't like it then. And again, it's not even a song that can be rescued by cool music. I don't think the music's that good, man.
Oh, I love the riff. I'm sorry. To me, I like it. I like this song. This song reminds me of my cousin who passed away. He introduced me to this song, and we just giggled about it. We didn't know what it was about technically, but we laughed at the zipper part and all that. It just made us giddy.
This is why Tipper Gore put stickers on things. I just want you to know this.
This is not why Tipper Gore put stickers on things.
This is one of the reasons. Tipper Gore. Well, this is one of the reasons that
stuff
this had
like
a sticker.
this. Yes,
exactly. No, this is too, like, for me, man. And I know you like them both, so please refute me here. This for me, man, is like two big misses. I'm like, we just try to get through the record now. Like,
yeah, no, I can't agree with you. I just, to me, there is not one single song on this record that I skip except for one, and we're not even there yet. Moving on, we go to Don't Go Away Mad, Just Go Away. This one hit number 19 on the Hot 100 charts. It's the last single that they put out for this album. And I remember the video of this one too, the pool table scenes and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of your really laid back Motley Crue video.
Well, it's a laid back Motley Crue song.
It
really is. Like, of any of their songs that lay in the cut, this one does.
Yeah, this one's an interesting one too, because it's a really like, hey, I'm hanging with the boys, so if you need to like get out of here because you don't like it, go.
You know what's funny to me, man? Like, it comes off as Nikki going like, hey, Vince, if you just got to go, man, go. I mean, because it wasn't long after
shortly
this,
after, yeah.
That's, I mean, really, like, I've always listened to this song, and then, shortly thereafter, Vince left, and there's lots of stories about that, but I've always wondered, was this Nikki and Tommy telling Vince, like, just go, because the whole video though gives you that idea. Vince is trying to get to the gig, and the dudes are like, I don't know where he is, and they're just sort of screwing around all day waiting on Vince. I want to go back to like the laid back way this song works, right? Because at the end, man, this is another one of those, like, you listen to Tommy Lee's drumming here and the cool stuff he's doing and adding in extra cymbal work and stuff to move the beat along and just still keep it steady. It's awesome. But this song builds. Like it comes out, it's just it's just straightforward, kind of real easy. We're just playing some open chords. Mick's not trying to do anything weird, I mean, it's just we're just kind of laying back. And by the end of it, man, you got like double timing on the hi-hats, you got double bass going, and Mick's over there ripping strings off of a Kramer, and I mean it really builds into this huge crescendo, and then just drops into Vince doing his faux bluesy voice things or whatever. It's a cool song, man, and it's a real recovery too. Because again, for me, these last two have just been stinkers, and this is a fun song. And for me, man, this is where the album should end. Okay. Because I think I know we're gonna agree on this next piece here.
Well, and I think what you mentioned too, the fact that the ending, the whole song builds. It's really nice and calm at the beginning and slow, and it slowly adds more instruments, more loudness, more beat, more everything until the end where you're just rock, and it takes you on a ride, which I think is brilliant, right? It takes you on a ride. It takes you from this is so depressing and sad to hey, let's party. And I do. I agree with you 100%. This is where the album should have stopped. Right here. This is it. This is the end.
Don't Go Away, Man, Just Go Away is a great ending song. But then we had to do Time for Change.
We had to do Time for Change. This song was written by Nikki Sixx and someone named Donna McDonald.
She was one of the backup singers on the Girls, and Dr. Feelgood tours for them.
And I do believe a backup singer on this album, too,
if
I'm not mistaken. But this also includes backup singers Skid Row, which I'm guessing means Sebastian Bach. Let's put it there.
Probably Rachel, too. Rachel Boland sang.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
And Mike Amato. You know what Mike Amato is?
I don't.
He's the tour manager.
Okay.
He has managed many tours. He's very, very popular in the musical business on that side of things. He's still to this day working, but I've never heard him once say that he was ever a musician. So why he's singing backup, I'm not quite sure.
Actually, I can weigh in on this. I know a lot of guys that work in the music business who work on the business side who weren't good enough to be full-time musicians. So I'm not surprised. Like, I could see that.
For sure, but he never was in a band. He's always been an American music tour manager.
Well, I mean, let's not play this off for more than it is, Brian. This isn't the Vienna Boys Choir.
Well, no. But here's the most interesting tidbit of this song. Nikki Sixx did not play bass on this song.
Yeah, Bob played. Yeah.
Bob Rock played the bass on this song.
Yeah. That's why it's almost totally forgettable. Because Nikki was playing piano in Oregon? I don't know.
No, so what?
I honestly, I've heard the story about this. I actually have heard this. All right. These guys, particularly Nikki and Mick, respected Bob as a musician. And Bob Rock, by the way, is a fantastic musician.
Well, heck, he played all the bass on Saint Anger.
Exactly, he did, which is not a great Metallica record, by the way. But he's a really good musician. And they, as kind of a thanks to Bob, they said, "Hey, Bob, why don't you play the bass on this track, and I won't play it, and you can have the credit for it." It was really just a tip of the hat to Bob. That's all it was. And Bob said, "Sure," and that's it. That's all it was. It was just a respect thing.
Crazy.
Yeah. You know what? I want to read to you my exact notes for this, Brian. In capital letters. LOLs. And that's it.
That's
if there's
fantastic.
ever this band, I want to remind everyone, just spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 6 songs on this record are about illicit paying for it sex. Okay? And the hazards thereof, if you want to be really deep about it. Deeper than they are. And then their last note is, "It's time for change." It's like a bad campaign slogan song. This is so ham-fisted and out of sorts, and it doesn't fit the record. I don't know, Bob. Maybe they couldn't talk him out of it. How this is one of those that, like, in the tracking of it, you're going back through and you go like, maybe we shouldn't end with the faux campaign song. because it doesn't really fit the motif that we've got going on here. It doesn't fit anything. It doesn't fit anything in their career. They never did anything like this before or since, thank goodness. This is a song that Trickster would do.
This is a song that I think that they were just trying to write a feel-good political message that falls flat. Peace, baby, peace.
Yeah.
Let's have peace. No more crime. No more drugs in the streets. Come on. Let's get our youth up there to build this world into a better world. That's what this is. And it's just blah.
Good message.
Sure.
Delivered by the absolute wrong
Worst
people to do
people.
it. And I get it. Look, sinners turn around, great messengers. I get it. Understand it. These guys, though, not. And in context of this record, it's a real thump of an ending. When you open up with something really weird and cool, and then just this killer song after killer song in a row, even if you don't like the lyrics, the music's jamming for 6 straight songs, and then you get this. And it's just a real, honestly, Brian, I've listened to this, probably I could count on one hand the number of times I've actually listened to the song all the way through. It's just...
Yeah, it's one I tend to skip also. And honestly, you look at this, it's not the right place for them to say this. When you have an album where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 tracks about sex.
At least.
But
you know who did this right? The Scorpions did this with Winds of Change. That's actually a great song and works. Like completely, even from that band who writes a lot of songs about sex. Rock You Like a Hurricane is not a sports anthem, kid. So, I mean, really.
You sure?
Yeah, pretty sure the Germans weren't talking about that. But Wind of Change is a really cool song from guys that, again, grew up on the other side of the wall. So like they had a real perspective on it that we don't get. So that works. And this almost feels like Motley Crue trying to do that, but they don't really know how to do it because all they've done is overcome their own self-inflicted wound.
I don't need a public service announcement from Motley Crue telling me to give peace a chance. He's not John Lennon, folks. Yes, he's just not.
Thank you. You know what? I think you've hit it. The Beatles motif remains strong. They just wanted to give peace a chance. And no, not these guys. No, doesn't work. Which, thankfully, again, they didn't do this again. Like, they knew. They've never done anything else like this. And
I will say this, Jay. Mm-hmm. The title of the song is apropos for what will happen in just 2 or 3 short years from now. Oh, yeah. Change is a-coming for the Motley Crue.
Change was coming for everybody, man. The end of the 80s. And
but 90s, I'm talking, they're changing the singer, bro.
Oh, bro.
They're going a different direction.
They're changing the style. Yes, I agree. The Karabi
And they're going to be forced to go back to it by the record company, which is sad. We can talk about that another day when we talk about the 1994 Motley Crue album, because we will do a tracks on that because it must be done.
And honestly, I haven't revisited that one in a long time, so it would be fun to go through. I know Dr. Feelgood probably like the back of my hand, so this was fun, but it'll be cool to do something that's a little lesser known, maybe, but from a band that's really well known.
Yeah, well, it'll be a fun one, but that is going to cap Dr. Feelgood. I will say this album, like we mentioned at the top of this, is by far their most commercially successful album. This has so much staying power that even on their final tour, there were 16 songs played on the final tour. 4 of them come from this album. Plus, they even used that Terror in Tinseltown intro in part of this. All right, so that's going to cap our talk on Dr. Feelgood, Jay. I think we both agree that this is just a fantastic album. And although we may not agree on a couple tracks that I think are good and you may not think are good, I think we agree that everything up until the final song is fun to listen to.
Absolutely. Look, the first 6 songs on this record, man, even for the failings of a couple that I'll low out lyrically, are amazing. But if for nothing more, if all this album gave us was Dr. Feelgood, Kickstart, and Without You, it'd still be a classic album, in my opinion. Particularly Dr. Feelgood. Dr. Feelgood is a composition achievement from guys who really no one thought they had it in them. And they came out with that, and I think that propelled them to a different level of commercial success, and I think even critical success. A lot of credit of that goes to Bob Rock and the way that he had them record it and then the way it was assembled. But these guys have kept that alive because they figured out how to play it all again. I find this to be one of the seminal records of that era of rock and roll. So thumbs up for Dr. Feelgood from me.
Yeah, I can't say enough about it either. I think this is going to be one of the last real in-your-face kick-ass albums that were out before the grunge era kind of took over.
Yeah.
And it was a great one, and this was my introduction to Motley Crue, so it always holds a special place there. But, I mean, the songs are timeless. I mean, Dr. Feelgood is a timeless song. Kickstart My Heart's a timeless song. Those are songs that, when they come on, you stop what you're doing and you just enjoy it. And always. And so this is one I love revisiting a lot. I've listened to it probably 5 times in the last 2 weeks just to prep for this show, and I've enjoyed every single time. It's just been fantastic. So if I'm in the mood for Motley Crue, because I don't have my favorite one, 1994, I go to this one because it's just that good. And I think that's a testament to just a great job by the band in putting this together, but Bob Rock in producing this thing. It's a masterpiece.
Absolutely. Can't say it better myself. Yeah.
All right, Jay, that's going to cap our show for today. Why don't you tell them where they can find your podcast and your blog?
Absolutely, man. TimeOutNeedMorePopcorn.com is the website. That's where you can find the blog posts. And then just search Time Out Need More Popcorn in your favorite podcatcher, Google Play, Stitcher, Overcast, Apple Podcasts. It's all out there. If you go to anchor.fm/timeoutpopcorn, that's the actual home of the podcast. But a lot of cool stuff. There's the first episode was you and I talking about movies about music, which was really cool. And then I've done a show with our friend Ron from the Film Strip Days, and where we talked about Oscars that we thought should have gone a different direction. And then I did a little solo review of a movie called Fighting with My Family. It was the WWE biopic on Paige, and I wrote a blog about it and then decided I had things to say about it too. And so there's that. And I'm also doing some football podcasts over there as well with our friend Tyson. So you'll see Gridiron Breakdown stuff in the feed too. But the podcast is called Time Out Need More Popcorn, and you go to timeoutneedmorepopcorn.com to find all of that content. And I really appreciate you bringing me here over to the Brian's Vinyl Records side of the store.
Well, I'm always excited to have you, Jay. We've worked together now for several years, and it's always a good time when we get together and talk about whatever we want to talk about. I mean, we just have a great time, and I think that this having this come to fruition finally is so exciting for me. I search my emails and I see things about we should do tracks. This is what we should do for tracks all the time, and I'm like, we need to get this off. And now we've done it. We're here. We've got it. I'm excited about it. I hope that the audience really enjoys it because I want to do several more of these. I think we have a list of probably 13, 14 albums that we want to cover. We probably added a couple today and during this conversation. So I hope people will dig it because we have fun talking music, and it's going to be a good ride for us. So this is just a series that we'll do every couple months or so. We'll put a new version of this out, covering a new album. And in the meantime, you can catch all my other podcasts about different vinyl topics and things like that. And you can also catch my blog. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode of Brian's Vinyl Records. Please go and check out my website at briansvinylrecords.com, where you'll find links to my blog, you'll find industry news, and you'll find a pre-order page for upcoming vinyl releases if you're interested in seeing what awesome records are actually coming out fairly soon. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a review on whatever app you're listening to us on. It helps other people find and enjoy the podcast. Once again, I want to thank you for listening, and until next time, keep spinning, friends.